Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to the second half of the Spreads Mock Draft. I'm your host, Jim Sella, here with J Dash. We are going to do picks 11 through 20. We already did picks 1 through 10, so go ahead, check that out. If your team falls through 11 through 20, you're in the right place. Dash, the 11th team is the New Orleans Saints. They are on the clock.
Correct. Now, real quick, if this is the second half, is the next segment the third half?
No, this is the second round.
Well, you said second half. I was just wondering.
I said round.
Oh, well, we'll see.
The tape will show.
the tape will show. All right. Yeah, the Saints are on the clock, and Drew Brees is in the final year of the deal out there. Do you think he'll be back after this season?
I doubt it. I mean, if they win the Super Bowl, he'll probably retire, and if they don't, they're going to move on from him. Dude's getting paid almost $30 million just for this one season.
Yeah, way too much money, but he is a baller.
Oh, yeah, it's just too much of a percentage of your cap for a guy who's pushing 40.
Yeah, and I don't think they will be winning the Super Bowl. They have too many questions on defense. They need help in a secondary, both safety and cornerback, and they need an edge pass rusher as well.
Yeah, the Saints defense has been bad for years. They finished 7-9 the last 3 years straight. They did re-sign defensive tackle Nick Fairley. They also brought in Ted Ginn Jr. on offense. I guess Alex Okafor is a good sign for them. He's only in his fourth season, so he could be a serviceable player. And they got A.J. Klein, the middle linebacker. I mean, these guys are going to help improve the Saints defense, but it's not going to take them from where they were to where they need to be to win a Super Bowl. I think a guy that can help take them in that right direction is Malik Hooker, the safety out of Ohio State. Hooker's got prototypical size at 6'1", 206 pounds. He's a guy who can move around the field. He's somebody that can come in for the Saints defense. They're really, really bad. I mean, a first-round pick on defense for the Saints should almost immediately start. Unless the guy's a complete bust, he's got to be better than what they got right now. So he's somebody that can come in. He can help them out. They still haven't signed Jarius Byrd. I think he actually signed somewhere else, honestly. He was injured most of the time he was there anyway, so good riddance to that guy. Hooker, I think, comes in, starts day one, helps the Saints defense. Maybe they can get to 10-6. I honestly, that division, the Panthers may get better. I think the Falcons aren't going to be as good. I think they kind of were pretty much peaking that season. And, I mean, it's anybody's ball game after that. Tampa Bay, who knows what you're going to get out of them.
I don't know what we're going to get out of that division next year. Atlanta, I think they can still win. I think Tampa Bay's on the rise. Carolina, I don't think is going to be as bad as last season. And the Saints always pull out a surprise season every now and again. So, really, I have no clue what's going to happen in that division next season.
A lot of people have Christian McCaffrey, that running back from Stanford, mocked to go to the Saints here at 11. I think that's way too high for McCaffrey.
And I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't want to take a running back if I was the Saints right now, especially knowing Drew Brees might not be back after this next season. I don't think a running back is their biggest need by any means.
Now, they reported to have interest in Chase Daniel. I believe the Eagles have actually released him now. I know he asked for his release. I'm not 100% sure if they released him yet. But when the Eagles signed Nick Foles, Daniels wanted released, so they could probably bring him back maybe to be a stopgap between Drew Brees and anybody who they decide to draft in the years to come.
All right, next on the clock is the Cleveland Browns at number 12. They got this pick from the Eagles. They already had the number 1 pick overall. You said you think they will trade that pick, but for now you have them taking defensive end Myles Garrett out of Texas A&M. I'd be surprised if they didn't draft 2 quarterbacks in the top 12 picks and then the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to say that they draft a second quarterback here at number 12.
Yeah, I got him taking Deshaun Watson, the quarterback out of Clemson, here at 12. They fit some defensive needs with Garrett in the first spot. Watson's a quarterback who plays big in big games. The Browns seem to screw up every quarterback they touch, so maybe Watson should hope he doesn't go there. But I think they got something, in the works to move some of these picks around, try to find the quarterback that they want. Watson, to me, is probably the best coming out of the draft of these QBs. I know some people don't have him rated number 1. Like I said, he plays big in big games. I like what I see on tape from Watson. He may not have all the measurables or the accuracy of some of the other guys or whatever, and he does rely on his legs a little bit more. But I think he's a guy who could become a more pure passer and stop relying on his legs a little bit into his career. I think he's a good fit for the Browns. They let Terrell Pryor go, so there's not too many guys for him to throw the football to.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't
Like,
know.
if you
Maybe
bring in a
Hugh
quarterback,
Jackson
man,
sees something in him.
he's gonna fail. You got to have weapons around these guys, man, and they're just not putting them out there for him. They finally get someone, 1,000-yard receiver, in Terrell Pryor, and the first thing they want to do is let him go. I don't know.
What I don't understand either is Pryor only signed a 1-year deal in Cleveland or in Washington. So why wouldn't the Browns be willing to match that for 1 year? They had $100 million in cap space. You can't give it up for 1 year to see what he's worth. You know what I mean? To see if the guy actually is a stud.
Yeah, they still have that Corey Coleman out there, Duke Johnson. These guys aren't good enough to. If you bring in a quarterback right now, it's not going to help him because it's just going to be another quarterback in Cleveland that fails.
Please believe.
All right, let's move on to the 13th pick overall, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. And Eddie B called it last season. They were not going to have a good season. You were never a Carson Palmer fan. He didn't have a good season last year. Larry Fitzgerald's getting old now, although he's still balling. But they do need to bring in a quarterback out there. You don't think they're going to draft one here. They do need a lot of help defensively as well. They could use an inside linebacker, an edge pass rusher, and someone to help out in the secondary as well.
Yeah, they signed Carlos Dansby at outside linebacker and Antoine Bethea at safety, but those guys are in the 13th and 11th season respectively, so they're not a long-term answer. So although they did fill some of the needs here, they're not really filled to me. These are stopgap guys who can possibly get them there this year if they think Carson Palmer can give them one more good year. I like them taking that Taco Charlton. I don't really know how to say this dude's last name. All I care about is first name's Taco.
Yeah,
he's
nice.
a defensive end out of Michigan. He's a beast. I mean, this guy can really get after the quarterback a lot. He'll be able to step in on third down. He might struggle a little bit against the run. His hips aren't as fluid, so he may stay at defensive end. They got some people projecting him into a linebacker position. I think he'd be better, at least his rookie year, staying in that just edge rusher position where he comes in when it's obvious passing downs, let him pin his ears back, get after the opposing team's quarterback, cause some havoc. I think this guy, I mean, in the right situation, he can come up with 8 sacks his rookie year.
Yeah, I heard they might actually want to trade back. They also like that guy Fajita Jones.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the 14th pick, and this is the Philadelphia Eagles. They got this pick from the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, one of the biggest steals in the trade market ever. The Eagles get a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's terrible. But whatever. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater went down right before the season started. They had to get a quarterback in there. They felt like they were a team that was on the cusp of making the playoffs, and they weren't a terrible team last year. Sam Bradford actually had a very high completion percentage, but he's a check-down king, obviously. So that's a good reason why. And yeah, it was terrible. And now the Eagles made out big from this, having the 14th pick this year. And they need a lot as well. Do you believe in their quarterback?
Yeah, I think Carson Wentz is good. I mean, he's coming into his second year. He played a lot better in the first half than the second half of the season. But they signed Alshon Jeffrey, so that's a guy that can come in and really help out instantly, honestly, as long as he's back from the injury. And, I mean, the Eagles, their offense was already decent last year, so I think a second year for Wentz really puts him in prime position.
They were okay. I think he can definitely build on his rookie season. I wouldn't say he had a good first half of the season, maybe a good first 4 games, and then he kind of tailed off. But they need to put some weapons around him as well. I know, like you said, they brought in Alshon Jeffrey, but they could use another receiver out there. They could use someone in the backfield as well, and they need a little bit of help in the secondary.
Speaking of receivers they signed, they also signed Turi Smith, I forgot, so that gives them a deep threat. That gives them a legit number one in Alshon Jeffrey. And I think here, Corey Davis, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, I think he's a guy that can play in the slot and play great coming out of there. He's got good size at 6'3", 209, so he's not afraid to go across the middle. Even with that size, he's a very fluid runner. He's a good route runner. He's somebody that can come in instantly. He can play. He can contribute. He's not going to be a starter. That doesn't mean he's going to come out and start, but this is a guy that can definitely play in 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, and he can really make a difference for Wentz. He can move around and find that open spot. So when Carson Wentz gets through his first or second progression and starting to panic a little bit, Davis is one of those guys that kind of has a knack for just finding that little open spot. He might not make the biggest plays all the time, but he's going to be a guy who gets a lot of catches in this offense.
Do you like the signing of Torrey Smith, though? Didn't he get some good money to go out there?
Yeah, I mean, he's not great. He had, I think it was 2 or 3 terrible years in San Francisco after playing pretty well for, Baltimore early in his career.
Right.
He's basically just a downfield guy, so he's not somebody who's going to come out and dominate or be somebody who's going to make the Pro Bowl. But when you put him across from Alshon Jeffrey doesn't have great speed, but he's real good at working the middle and just making amazing catches. So if you're getting Smith to stretch the field and keep those safeties back a little bit, then you're going to have Alshon and Davis just running around, kind of wreaking havoc in the middle of the field, and that's going to be good for Wentz.
All right, 15th overall pick is the Indianapolis Colts. They have a couple of receivers out there for Andrew Luck, but they had a down season last year, and Frank Gore is old as balls now, so they're going to need a running back here soon. But most importantly, they got to keep Andrew Luck upright. If they could have just blocked for him last season, things could have been a lot different. We've seen it in Carolina. A few years ago, they didn't block for Cam Newton at all. They were a terrible team. The next year, the offensive line takes a huge step forward, blocks for Newton. They make the Super Bowl. Last year, the line wasn't as good, nearly as good. Cam Newton got the hell beat out of him again. Terrible team. So I think if they could just protect Andrew Luck here in Indianapolis, things will be a lot different out there. He is very talented. They have a lot of talented receivers out there around him. Like I said, they could use a younger running back to bring in here, but they got to work on that offensive line, correct?
Yeah, I believe it. If they could protect Andrew Luck the way they protected Peyton Manning, they'd be Super Bowl contenders. They haven't been able to protect Luck outside of his rookie year, and the next year he did okay, but he was still getting hammered behind that offensive line. The only reason he wasn't getting completely destroyed is because he can move around a little bit for a white boy. So I think Ryan Ramczyk, the offensive tackle out of Wisconsin's an instant need filler for the Colts. They really, really need a tackle. A lot of rookie O-lines, they got growing pains, but you really just kind of got to throw him in there and see what he can do because the Colts don't really have anything better right now. You can't let Andrew Luck keep getting hammered. The key to the Colts doing well is keeping Andrew Luck upright, and Ramczyk fits that profile, and he's somebody who can hopefully play right away. It's tough for offensive linemen, but really, usually the rookie tackles will go to right tackle, and the more experienced guy will play left, and then after a year or so, they can move over, unless they feel he's good enough to instantly start on the left side.
Who do you have as the favorite in that division?
Oh, wild card, I'm going to say Tennessee. Houston has no quarterback. The Colts have just really struggled to put a team around Andrew Luck. I mean, what else you got? Jacksonville? No, thank you.
All right. At 16, you have the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco, after signing that big deal, has not been the same quarterback after they went to the Super Bowl that year, and then he signed that huge deal. He hasn't been the same type of quarterback since, although they really don't have the greatest weapons around him either, I would say. So that's one part of it. They could bring in a wide receiver, but more importantly, their defense hasn't been the same either, and that they do need an edge pass rusher. And I see you do have them take a D end here, and I see they are running out of first names for human beings.
Yeah, we're going to call this dude T.K. McKinley.
Just call him Tack. His name's Tack McKinley.
That's it, Tack McKinley, the defensive end out of UCLA. This guy's 6'2", 250 pounds, so he may project better as a linebacker in the NFL than a defensive end, but he's somebody that can put pressure on the quarterback. I mean, that's at a premium right now. All these guys that can put pressure on the quarterback, they have more value than in years past. You used to see running backs go a lot in the first round, wide receivers go a lot in the first round. Teams have figured out you can find those guys later or even undrafted as far as running backs go. But premium pass rushers are hard to find. McKinley's somebody that can do that. Is he great against the run? He's steady, I'll give him. Maybe not great, but he's definitely a Baltimore Raven, really, when I look at this guy. I mean, he kind of looks like Ray Lewis, honestly. Not that I'm comparing him to Ray Lewis, although he did run a 4.59 at the combine, which is pretty quick for a linebacker. Really quick for a D.
So they brought in Danny Woodhead as well. Are they going to take a step forward this season?
Maybe a little bit. Joe Flacco doesn't do it for me. I mean, they re-signed Mike Wallace, but I don't know, Mike Wallace and a blown-out knee, Danny Woodhead, does that really make them much better? It is what it is. The Ravens, their defense can play good, but I just think Flacco's garbage, and until they figure that out, they'll be playoff contenders. They're going to contend for the division. I mean, they beat Pittsburgh usually at least once a year, so that goes a long way towards winning the division. They'll be better than the Ravens. I think they'll be better than the Bengals. I think it'll be between Pittsburgh and the Ravens for the division.
And at 17 overall, you have the Washington Redskins. Are they going to trade Kirk Cousins? Is that what they're trying to do?
He says, well, there were reports that he asked for a trade a few days ago. Now, I seen a report this morning that said he did not ask for a trade, so I think they're just kind of playing cat and mouse. He's trying to get a long-term deal out of him. I honestly think maybe he's just trying to play out the second year of the franchise tag and then move on to San Francisco after this season. There's so much going on in that front office with the Reds. Just fired their GM because he's an alcoholic. Apparently the team president was making all the GM decisions when the GM was still there. They got that Chris Cooley, the tight end who used to play there. He's pretty much called out the whole entire front office and said the only way they negotiate is by getting hammered drunk and just talking. Like when they did with Mike Shanahan a few years ago, Shanahan didn't even want the job. They just all got hammered, and by the end of the night, he decided to take it. So it really just seems like they don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, they brought in Terrell Pryor, but I think Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson. I think Deshaun Jackson went to Tampa Bay, correct?
Believe it.
So they're both gone now, so I don't know what they're doing offensively, although they do still have Jordan Reed out there, and I think he's one of the better tight ends in all of football.
Yeah, if that guy can keep it on the field, he's always either getting hurt or suspended.
But the Redskins, they need some help on the inside linebacker.
Yeah, they need some help pretty much everywhere on the defensive side as far as depth goes, but they could really use some immediate help at the linebacker position, especially the inside linebacker. I think Jabril Peppers, the linebacker / safety out of Michigan, nobody really knows where this guy's going to play yet. Peppers, I'm sorry, I might have said Pepper to begin with. He's smaller at 5'11", 213, so I don't think he'll be a standard middle linebacker, inside linebacker, however you want to say it. But do you remember, I think it was like 2 years ago when the Panthers took that Shaq Thompson in the first round? He was a guy who has size similar to Peppers. He lines up at safety sometimes. He lines up at middle linebacker sometimes. They bring him from anywhere on the field. So it's really a guy who doesn't necessarily have a position, and that's usually not a good thing for a football player, especially a first-round pick. But it kind of fits for this Peppers. A lot of people have him waiting all the way till number 30 with Pittsburgh. I don't think he makes it to number 30, honestly. I think a team will be enamored with his athleticism. At 5'11", 213, he ran a 4.46, had 19 bench reps, and a 35.5-inch vertical. That's pretty good for a guy his size. He's not quite a ball hawk, I don't want to say, but he's a guy who can return kicks, so he's agile with the ball in his hand. He just didn't play a lot with the ball in his hand on defense. He didn't have a lot of turnovers. But he can definitely help this Redskins defense. They're hurting for a playmaker. That's what they need.
All right, at 18th overall, we have the Tennessee Titans with their second pick of the first round. They had the 5th pick overall. You had them taking wide receiver Mike Williams from Clemson, and that would help out Mariota, who's coming off of a broken leg. Here you have them going defense this time around. Like I said in the first segment, they needed help at wide receiver and they need help at inside linebacker as well. Or really, they could use help at any linebacker position and the end as well. So what do you have them taking here?
I like Hassan Reddick, the linebacker / D end out of Temple, another guy who's a hybrid at 6'1", 237 pounds. So he might project as a linebacker more than a defensive end, but he's still somebody who can get after the passer coming off the edge. He ran a 4.5, 240 and had 24 bench reps. That's pretty fast for a guy as strong as him. Usually you're good at one, not the other. And then he added a 36.5-inch vertical. So at 6'1", that's somebody who can get up in the air. He's another guy just like Peppers who can make plays. Doesn't matter where he's at on the field. He just seems like he has a nose for the football. And LeBeau is senior advisor, whatever his official role is overall on the defense. He pretty much has, I don't want to say final say, but people respect this guy's opinion after being in the league for like 95 years. So I'm pretty sure he has most of the final say over defensive players. And I heard he really likes this guy.
So you said the Tennessee Titans are going to win that division this year. Is Mariota going to be MVP? Is he going to take the next step?
MVP of the league?
Yeah, please believe, man.
Dude
was balling last year when he was healthy, man.
I mean, he was balling, yeah, but I don't know if he's ready for that yet. I was bigger on Jameis Winston than Mariota, so if anybody's going to win MVP next year, I think it's going to be Winston.
If anybody, huh?
Well, I mean, if any young quarterbacks were, I should say.
And speaking of Jameis Winston, they have Mike Evans out there. They brought over Deshaun Jackson, obviously. Is Doug Martin going to be sticking with the team? They might cut him.
Pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to restructure his deal, if anything. They just signed him before last season, and now they're already regretting the contract. He played well when he was in last year, so I guess it's really his availability that's been a little bit of a hang-up. But they would have cut him by now if they were going to cut him. Just my opinion.
They also have that Cameron Brate out there at tight end, but he's not an elite guy. And here, for their team needs, I see you wrote in that they pretty much filled all their needs through free agency. So considering Cameron Brate isn't elite, Jameis Winston got some serious weapons around him right now. He showed he took the next step last season. And I see here you have him bringing them in that Alabama tight end, O.J. Howard. I think that would be a huge addition for Tampa Bay's offense.
Yeah, they tried with that Austin Seferian-Jenkins, your boy, a few years back, but he really just couldn't stay on the field, kept getting suspended. He was dinged up a little bit, and then I don't remember exactly. He punched a girl in the face or ran somebody over. I don't remember. Dude kept getting in trouble, so they finally parted ways with him. I think O.J. Howard is the clear-cut best tight end in this draft. Not a lot of positions have a clear-cut number one at the position this year. I think Howard really is that guy at the tight end position. He's somebody that can come in, compete for playing time right away. He can play in a spread offense. He can move around a little bit. I mean, this guy's 6'6", 251 pounds, and he ran a 4.5, 140. I mean, that's speed for a guy his size, and that makes red zone presence really good. You already got Mike Evans. You already got Deshaun Jackson. I mean, defenders are really going to have to be paying attention to them. That leaves Howard pretty much the whole middle of the field to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I see big things for Tampa Bay moving forward, man. I think they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, they can. I mean, they added a little bit on defense, but they signed Chris Baker, the defensive end. He was a 26th ranked free agent. And they signed J.J. Wilcox. He wasn't ranked in the top 100. But, I mean, they re-signed William Golston. He's a guy who can get after the quarterback a little bit. They're putting the right pieces there. Their defense is almost there. Their offense is probably there already. So let's see if they can put it together.
And 20th on the board is the Denver Broncos. I see you have written here they say they're okay with their current QBs. I didn't hear them say that. Do they believe that?
Yeah, that's pretty much a direct quote from John Elway. It's a little bit paraphrased. But he basically came out and said that the organization is happy with both quarterbacks, and they would even consider trading Trevor Siemian. They believe so much in Paxton Lynch, but this could be all hearsay. They're probably where Tony Romo is going to end up. I mean, that's just my honest gut opinion.
I think that's actually a pretty good spot for Tony Romo. Denver could be okay with him. I think they could be a playoff team for sure. Considering
they're a
what kind
team
of
that can
defense
win now, and they got some pieces on offense. They got that good defense. I mean, all Romo's got to do is stay on the field, which is the hardest part for him.
If they did bring in Tony Romo, what they could do is help that offensive line, including tight end. I think anywhere along the line there could be a huge add for them.
Yeah, they let Russell Okung go after just 1 year, after signing him to a big deal in the offseason last year. So I think guard Forrest Lamp out of Western Kentucky is somebody who fits nice here for Denver at number 20. I think he's the top guard as far as, interior lineman, whether it's right or left side. I don't think it really matters. He's 6'4", 309 and had 34 bench reps. He's a grinder. He's somebody who can play, in the run game at an NFL level right now. That's rare to find in an offensive lineman today. Usually they struggle in the pass or the run or both right away. This guy's NFL ready in the run game. He might struggle a little bit in the passing game, but when you're the interior lineman, I mean, if you can really just hold your own, their quarterbacks are both mobile guys who like to bootleg a lot or just move around in general. So I think they could get away with a rookie starting at guard, and they're going to need to beef up that O-line a little bit. C.J. Anderson coming off the injury, and Devontae Booker, I mean, his yards per carry really dropped off towards the end of the year, so you could tell that line was starting to wear down. Lamp, fresh legs, fresh arms, somebody who can come in there and play a lot of snaps.
So from 11 through 20 here, which pick would you like the best if it happened? I like Malik Hooker, and I like, I've told you before, I like O.J. Howard, and I think in Tampa Bay that'd be real nice.
I said Fournette for the Jags in the first episode we were doing. I'd like to say Deshaun Watson because I think he could play well wherever he goes, just not Cleveland because they're so bad. So I think I'll go with Jabril Peppers, the linebacker safety out of Michigan, going to the Redskins at 17. I think this guy's a really interesting prospect. I personally don't like guys that don't have a position, but he just seems like he's the guy that can really play no matter what, and no matter where he's at on the field. Will he be a stay-at-home linebacker? Probably not. But he definitely seems like a guy who can make an impact, at least, initially for the Redskins.
Well, I tell you what, Shaq Thompson didn't have a position coming into the draft, and that guy is a pretty good football player.
Believe it.
That's it, man. We'll move on to 21 through 32.
Yep, and hopefully the Patriots do something wrong and lose their pick between now and the time we actually record that episode.
Or they'll trade for the first pick overall.
Probably they're going to trade Garoppolo for the first overall pick, the bastards. Fans, any questions or comments, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. You can hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming to YouTube and click and subscribe. Check out Dash's other YouTube page, talking all about Trump.